There's a deeply serious side to this whole conversation about heaven and hell, and I want to touch on a few things, but I think, first of all, I just want to remind us, because some of us may not have been here last week, that a big part of why I think this is important for us to explore this is really, it's about who we are as Methodists, and sometimes we forget that, but it really is at the heart of our denomination. Even though a number of Methodists move one direction or the other, we were founded on the campus of Oxford University. We are an intellectually, reflectively based denomination. And as I mentioned before, when I went into seminary, and I had no real affiliation other than my evangelical adolescent young adult days and InterVarsity Christian Fellowship and such, and I just kind of danced around looking at a denomination to call home. It was while I was in seminary that I came across John Wesley's, our founder, John Wesley's fourfold norm, the quadrilateral, and it was so speaking to where I was that it made perfect sense then that this was the denomination to be a part of. The idea that in order to really have a rich and full and engaged faith, you cannot ignore a dialogue or a dialectic between not just the Scripture, but in a dialectic between Scripture and experience and reason and then tradition. And the fact is, as I thought about this whole topic, I realized that, we can't ignore that there's a tradition in the church about heaven and hell. It goes way back. And in some ways it goes even prior to the Judeo-Christian foundings. But as far as our faith, it goes way back. And there's been positive and negative consequences in our tradition. And we can't ignore the fact that where we are now with our new understanding of the mind and how our brain works and the role in which patterning has served in our lives, that we can't help but think about how we might ought to rethink the way we think because of these new understandings in brain science. And not to mention our new understanding in astronomy and physics, just to realize in the time of Galileo what was suddenly being discovered and how heretical and sacrilegious that was deemed at that time. We can't ignore our reason. We can't ignore our history, our tradition. We can't ignore our experiences and the insights that we gain from those as we try to explore. I know, for example, while I jest about being here and a little bit of the conflict of actually talking about this without feeling some tinge of guilt, my emotions are deeply laden with these neural pathways that remind me of what I once believed. It's hard to think otherwise. And even the idea of thinking about it might strike in your mind or in your gut, perhaps, where oftentimes we really experience our emotion. Just this tinge of, okay, where is he going to go with this? Even if we would say we know better. Emotions play a huge role. Our experience plays a huge role. And then finally, to take a look at Scripture, I think we have to be honest about it, and we have to be willing to actually take a deep look and reflect back on the nature of what Scripture is and its context, meaning not only for them, but for today.